So in today's pattern review, I'm going to do something a little different, maybe not so different coming the future, but what I received was I happened to get a mystery box that I purchased, and it came with a pattern, a sock pattern. So I decided what a perfect opportunity to try and take a knitted pattern and do it by using crochet stitches, using a hook. Yeah. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Hi, my name is Sig, and this is Crochet and Fiber. And just like the tagline says, if crocheting is bad, I want to be good. So grab your favorite beverage, pull a seat up to your screen, and let's see how I do. Okay, so the yarn that I got is from a dyer who goes by the business name of Twinkly Knits. Okay, and this is one of their subscription boxes. So this is a January sock box. It's a gym themed sock box. And of course she indicates it's a gift for knitters. And now she comes with different options. So you can purchase more yarn, less yarn. She has a bit of, a little bit of a selection. And me being me, decided to go for the full enchilada. And so what this full option entails, and I only got the 1 month, so she does it for each month, right? She does the whole subscription box thing. But I just purchased the first one, not because I wasn't intrigued and not because I wasn't interested, but because I just couldn't do the shipping. So the box itself came to just over $35, right? It's not any more than anyone else, you know, but well, maybe by $1 or $2, okay, that's all right. But this particular yarn is coming from a business in the UK, and so shipping is something else. And shipping itself was almost 20 bucks. Not quite that much. It was $16.33. So while $35 for this box isn't a huge expenditure, the added $16.33 is just pushes it over the edge, you know? So the grand total with shipping comes to $51.60. Some months I'm sure would be a little more, some months maybe a little less, depending on the conversion rate, but you know, it's neither here nor there. It's just not, financially speaking, it's just a little more than I want to spend on a single sock yarn. However, this dyer really kind of makes it worth your while. So let me tell you why. So I got the box, and there was some problem with something happened in shipping. I don't know if customs opened it or not, but whatever. I haven't opened it yet, but you know, we'll see what's in it. But what they did do is also give me a link to a sock pattern, right? Well, that's cool. I didn't know I was going to get that. You know, I knew I was going to maybe get a little more yarn. Well, I knew I'd get a little more yarn, and then I knew that that it was gonna, you know, might come with a little gift or something, but they never really tell you what that is. Yeah, it's usually a stitch marker, you know. But I didn't expect a pattern for a pair of socks, and so I'm kind of curious, right? I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it. I'm feeling a little intimidated, but I'm determined. I'm determined to try and pull this off, and why the hell not? That's what I'm here for. This is what my channel's about. So come with me and it'll be awesome. Okay. See how I talk myself into these things? Okay, so this is what she tells us about the box. January sock box. So yeah, this is a couple of months past, but that's okay. I'm gathering the boxes and putting them out every month as I can. But I digress. January sock box, gym themed sock box, yarn subscription, gift for knitters. Boxes will not be ready. Oh, blah, blah, blah. So she tells us the boxes aren't going to be ready till after January, which is fine because, yeah, I'm a little late. I'm a little slow to the punch on this one. But anyway, she tells me that the oh my gosh, now I got to try and remember which options I picked. Hold on a second, because she's giving me a bunch of information about options I didn't pick. Okay, so I chose, and probably because it was really the only thing that was, that was still available, I'm sure, I chose option 1, which was the full enchilada, and I chose the plain yarn base. So the plain option was 75% merino and 25% nylon, and the other option was a sparkly yarn. And I've got some sparkly yarn, but I don't do a lot of sparkly yarn. So this month the yarn is gem themed and called Jewel Tones. There is a painted main skein and a semi-colored coordinating skein. Treats are themed with this, and I have written a sock pattern which will be explained as a PDF once your box is dispatched. Okay. I missed the sock yarn PDF part of my purchase. That was a nice surprise. Let's see, option 1, and this is the one that I purchased, 1 full box, so that's going to give me 100 grams of the main skein. It's going to give me 50 grams of a contrasting skein, so that's nice. Usually your contrasting skein is about 20 grams, so that's a nice little extra. And then the pattern is included. Treats, boy, I just don't know how I missed the pattern. It's everywhere. Okay, so let me go through the other options too, just in case you're wondering what other options she offers. So she has a option 2 box, and in this box you get half a box. So you're going to get 50 grams of the main skein. You can get 25 grams of the contrast skein. And then you're also going to get patterns and treats. She tells us that this should be enough for a pair of socks up to UK 6. So you might be able to squeeze a size medium US out of these socks. She doesn't guarantee this, so if you're a loose knitter or you like generously fitted socks, this is probably not going to work for you. Okay, so option 3, she says, is the main skein box. And in this one, you simply get 100 grams of the main colorway plus a pattern and treats. So that's all right. Okay, so let's see what's in this box. Okay, so that side's already been undone. Let's get that side. Oh, got more. All right, I'm gonna open this up. I'll open it up so you can see it. Oh, it's covered. Hold on, let me see what we got. Oh, more crinkles. Yeah, right. Here we go. We've got some purples and some pinks and the white. That's a nice contrast. Okay, let me put this box down and see what all. Oh, I see. Okay. So our main colorway is this beautiful sort of pastel looking colors with the purples and the pink and a little bit of teal in there and some nice white for good measure. That's really pretty. And then the contrasting color is the pink. It's a very fuchsia colored pink. So this straight fuchsia colored pink probably isn't my favorite colorway. However, I do love the combination of this. But of course, this is never going to go to waste in my basket. So we'll just hold on to this because I'm sure something's going to come along that's going to make me change my mind. Okay. So yeah, so that's pretty. I'm really, well, actually, no, what the hell am I talking about? I've got a pattern for this, so I will be using this color. So they're going to use these colors on that pattern. Oh, boy. I need another cup of coffee. This is, oh. No wonder I missed the fact that there was a pattern to this box. Holy cow. All right. Let's see what they give us. So we get, wait for it, a stitch marker. But this one's really pretty. Look at that. Now you see it's a little gem, which is appropriate for the theme of this box. I'm just try to, let me see if we can get a better look of that for you. I don't know if we're going to get much of a better look, but it's a nice little gem, little piece of cut glass. So we'll just go ahead and put that with the rest of the stitch markers, add that to the collection. And then the next thing she gives us is a little box, a little stitch marker box. So basically this is a little box that you might put, or you might purchase your breath mints in. So it's just an empty little box, but that's okay. We can always do things with boxes. I always put these aside because they make, well, they're great to hold small things. And then the ones that are slightly larger are usually a perfect size to decorate the box and use the box as like a, you know, like a gift card holder. So we'll put that aside. And so this is what she tells us. She gives us a little sort of little information sheet in here. And it says, thank you for purchasing the Twinkly Knits January sock box. 100 grams of jewel tone, 50 pale magenta, a Serenity stitch marker, and a stitch marker tin. And then, of course, the sock pattern is a Diamonds Forever is her sock pattern. Okay, guys, let me get started. What I'm going to do is I'm going to step away, and I'm going to attempt to make a sock. And then when I get that finished, I'll come back here. For me, it'll be, oh, I don't know how long it'll be. For you, seconds. So hang tight. And if I figure it out, I'll walk you through the steps. If I don't figure it out, we'll discuss what could have probably gone wrong, which will probably be a lot. So yeah, let me get started with the pattern and the yarn, and we'll see you in just a moment. Okay, I'm back. So it's been just a couple of seconds for you, but for me, it's been a few days. So let me show you what I've gotten so far. So I've got a sock here, and I'm going to change the perspective of the camera when we get into talking a little more about the finer details of what I've got going on. Now, I used a 2.75 millimeter locker hook, Knook hook, if that's what you prefer. This is a little different than a Knook hook. Nooking hooks are more or less a regular like crochet hook top. And the locker hooks, the profile of the head is a little more narrow, and it has a much longer nose with a very deep throat. And you typically see this with locker hooks, which, while it's called a nooking hook, it's technically a locker hook, this particular one. And it's used in carpet making. So, but it works beautifully for nooking. I think it works better for nooking. But I do have other hooks that in the future I will certainly be using for nooking to give them a try as well. Okay, so of course the sock pattern that I was using was the one that came with the Twinkle Knits box that I got the yarn from. And it is their Diamonds Forever pattern. Now, because I've only ever knitted one project like 20 years ago, maybe not quite 20 years, but something to that effect. Yeah, knitting clearly isn't my thing. However, with nooking, you go and you use basically a knitting vernacular when you nook. So in my mind, in theory, you should be able to use a knitting pattern with a nooking hook, right? I mean, that's how I see it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm going to have to adjust things a little bit, and I'm thinking that's going to be true. But let's just get into what I thought worked out right with this pattern. So to begin with, the pattern had this, what they called a picot edging, and I was really curious on how that was going to work out. So I had to actually go and I had to take some time and do some research because I'm learning how to do this right along with the rest of y'all. And after a couple of trial and error moments, I figured it out and I was really happy with the way that worked up. They call it picots. They look like little spikes. Now, normally on a pair of socks, this isn't the edging I would want, but because it was so unique and it was a challenge, this is what I opted to go with and do. So I did this in the contrasting color that they gave me. And this is how that worked out. And I thought that was a huge success. Also, the other element of the sock that I wasn't particularly keen on, however, it did have, an element to it. I mean, the design itself or the technique, yeah, I mean, I can certainly use it in the future. I just didn't care for it on this sock. But to be fair, they also give you a straight, standard 2x2 ribbing that you could use on your sock instead of this kind of fancier edging bit. But I went with the fancier edging bit because, quite frankly, it's new and challenging and something different, right? And I'm just learning this stuff. So maybe this isn't what I should have done, but I went ahead and I did it anyways. And I was okay with the way that turned out as well. I thought it turned out just the way it was supposed to. Also, which kind of surprised me a bit, was right here. I think you can see this, the diamond pattern or the diamond stitch. And then they also have a bit of a diamond stitch over here in the heel, but we'll get to that in a moment. So right here along the top of the foot is kind of this lacy diamond pattern. And I thought I did a really decent job getting that pattern with the Knook. Pretty good. So I was pretty pleased with that. And then this is the heel flap. So I think I did this the way it was supposed to be done. I feel like I did the appropriate stitches. However, we're going to move into the aspects of this sock that I didn't care for. Now, some of these things just have to do with the design, and some of these things probably have to do with me and my inexperience with the piece, right? So, as we just talked about the heel, and I thought maybe, while in some respects the heel looks correct to me, it looks off as well. So I was trying to decide, was it that I got the stitch wrong, which is a possibility. I think I understood it, but that's yet to be determined. But I think the greater issue with this is the fact that admittedly my tension and gauge were off. Okay, so I'm not gonna pretend that wasn't a thing, because it really was very much a thing. So it turned out quite a bit larger than what the sock should have turned out. And the reason for that is because when you nook, as opposed to when you knit, I needed to do a foundation chain. And I did the appropriate foundation chain, but the foundation chain doesn't have the same kind of stretch that you might see if you're doing a cast on for a regular sock. Now, I probably could have avoided that if the pattern were a toe to cuff direction. And as you can see, I didn't finish the toe. After I finish having this discussion, I'm actually just going to unravel the yarn and put it back in my collection, because this is not a sock that I'm going to keep. And I'll explain to you why that is as well here in just a moment. So I think had we begun at the toe and worked up to the cuff, that I could have done a much tighter gauge or tightened my tension up a bit, because I wouldn't have been restricted by the lack of stretch that comes with a foundation stitch, a crocheted foundation chain being used at the cuff, because this part still has to come over your foot and it has to come over your heel. Well, I have a wide foot and a high arch, and So I need a little extra stretch in my cuff. And this just doesn't give it. So it's a little bit of a struggle. At least it was a little bit of a struggle for me to get this part, this opening over my heel. Because there again, there's no stretch to the foundation chain. But had I started the piece or the foundation at the toe and worked my way up, it wouldn't have been a problem. So that's one thing to keep in mind. As you can see, I think the actual material turned out fine. Again, my tension is loose, and so my gauge is quite a bit bigger than the piece should be. But otherwise, I don't have too many complaints for my first actual article in terms of nooking. And then also keep in mind, the nook that I used was a 2.75 millimeter nook. And the needles that were being required were actually, for this piece, I believe, were like a 2 millimeter needle, or maybe it was a 2.5 millimeter needle. Let me see what she's got written down here real fast. Yeah, 2.5 millimeter needle was what was needed. So that added to the gauge being off a little bit. And so I think that was the biggest problem I had with the heel, was that everything was off enough that the heel just was a lot more looser than I would have wanted it to be. And then it was a heel flap and a heel turn, and I had to figure out what the hell was going on with that. And I don't think I did such a bad job for my first time around after watching a couple of knitting videos and then a little bit of trial and error. I finally got something that looked close to what it was supposed to look like, so I'm okay with that. And then the gusset turned out just fine. Yeah, so the sock, if I were to have finished this sock would have been fine had I been interested in having a very loose and slouchy sock. It would have fit. But I don't want a loose and slouchy sock, so this isn't going to work for me. However, the material is so fine and so thin. That's something to note. I mean, so that really makes this nooking process very desirable. Maybe not for the particular pattern that I used today, but it certainly has its applications that I'm excited to try on something where I think it's going to work better for me. Also, last but not least, the pattern. So I was thinking about it a little bit, and I decided that for a gem themed box, while the pastel is pretty, it does not really give me gem vibes. You know, it doesn't put off gems. Gem colors, for me at least, are a color that's much more saturated. And this doesn't give me that. However, it's still pretty, and I was happy to knit these up just so that I could see the pattern that the dye process allows us to get with this particular yarn. And so I happen to like that pattern quite a bit, and I've already got it in my mind as to what those applications might work well for in terms of just the natural painted pattern. And so I'm looking forward to seeing how that works up on a piece in the future. Oh, and then there was another thing about this sock set that wasn't for me. And this wasn't a me thing, this was an actual pattern thing. And in the pattern you have a right sock and a left sock, right? So your right sock and your left sock. And because of that, your pattern, your diamond lace pattern, is a bit off center from the sock itself. From heel to heel, it's a little bit off center, which makes sense because, you know, your leg doesn't really sit center. It sits just a little off center, especially if you're trying to get a pattern or a lace pattern, something like this, to go right down maybe the appearance of the center of the foot. So things are shaped a little different to accommodate kind of the inside of your foot as opposed to the outside of your foot. And that's all good and well, but really, at least at this point, I think a straightforward symmetrical sock really is more in alignment with what I'm interested in seeing, because the little extra few stitches off on one side to the other side really kind of threw me with everything else I was trying to learn and trying to lock in. For me personally, having it off-centered, like a pair of socks off-centered like that, kind of bothered me. You know, I mean, and that is a me thing. But if you're interested in this pattern, just know that you have instructions for a left sock and instructions for a right sock. And that's just how this particular pattern goes, and it's the way it fits your foot. And all of that is good. It's just not good for me. So with that said, I'd just like to thank you for joining me today. I always enjoy having you here. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. And I'd like to wish you a most fantastic week. Bye-bye now. Thank you again.